2024 has been an incredible year for the creative industry, so in today's episode of Design Ahead, we're going to be continuing our look back on the past 12 months within the industry. Welcome back to Design Ahead with me, Jake Fernandes, and first things first, I can't believe I left those blue lights off behind me in the last episode. I put so much effort into this set, as you could probably tell, and I really hope that the production quality does get through, but yeah, small things, sometimes you forget. It probably doesn't make any difference to you watching or listening, but to me I was like, oh my god, I can't believe I've left it off. But today we're going to be continuing our look back on the past year in the creative industry. 2024 has been a crazy year, as I have previously mentioned in the last episode. If you haven't checked that out, I would recommend going back to watch that, as we covered some of the most important topics of the industry this year. We looked at creative styles, creative breakthroughs, and the biggest lessons learned. Do give that a watch before you watch this one. It'll provide a bit more context into what we're doing. But if you've already watched it, let's get into part 2 and start looking at another 3 big areas in the creative industry in 2024. Category number 4 is unexpected creative breakthrough of 2024. This is quite an interesting one, and I was looking for something a little bit more out there for a topic. I think, we do try to keep everything relevant to the creative industry, namely sort of design, video production, music, all of those things. But I thought it was quite interesting to look at some of the technologies that might be impacting design in the future. Some of these more emerging products that have started to make a name for themselves, and you can start to see where things are going and potentially what could be important to the design industry to start considering in the future. And in third place, we've got Onward Medical's ARC-X. Now, if you aren't involved in the medical industry at all, like me, when you first hear those words, you're probably like, what on earth are you talking about? Well, I'm going to tell you. So Onward Medical is the company that has developed ARC-X, and it is a revolution in spinal cord injury treatment. Now, I've probably lost a lot of you, but the really cool thing and interesting thing about this is that it's starting to rehabilitate people with disabilities like paraplegics, quadriplegics, those without limb functions. And the reason it's so surprising is that medical breakthroughs like this are very, very rare and quite difficult to do. So it sometimes is a bit of a breakthrough and then everything starts to accelerate at a rapid pace after that. And that's what ARC-X has been able to do. It's been able to provide a really good starting point for the company to evolve their technologies on. It has significant improvements in upper limb functions for spinal cord injury patients. And there's a lot of promise for future medical rehabilitation technologies. The promotional video looked at how it can potentially evolve into blood pressure management and bladder control, so you can only imagine the incredible promise that this technology shows and the ways in which it can really evolve our bodies and help not only those with disabilities, but those who are looking to live a longer and healthier life. And coming in at number 2 is Neuralink. Now, Neuralink has been around for the best part of the last decade, but there was a moment in January that was a milestone not only in the company or the industry's history, but human history. And that was the first human patient to receive a Neuralink implant. Now, let's take a very quick step back to discuss what Neuralink actually is. In essence, it is a computer brain implant. It is a small chip that goes into your brain. A lot of technical stuff happens. I'm not even going to try to explain it, but essentially it allows you to have a computer interacting and embedded within your brain. And the person to receive this was Noland Arbor, who was a quadriplegic after an accident in 2016. And the Neuralink implant has allowed him to interact with a device for the first time since the accident. He's unable to use his arms or legs, so controlling the computer with his mind is the only way. And he speaks about how remarkable it has been and how transformative it has been for his life. He talks a bit about video gaming and how it actually feels like he has an aimbot in his head, which is absolutely incredible. That puts him at such a massive advantage over the other players. And he does talk a little bit about if this becomes more widespread, they would have to create a new division or a new league for people with Neuralink implants. Neuralink doesn't come without its controversies, of course. You can definitely read more about it online and make an informed decision about their own ethics and their morals, but there's no getting around the fact that they are genuinely changing the course of human history. And in top position, it is the Meta Orion AR glasses. These seem to come out of nowhere from the consumer market perspective. They're not released in the consumer market yet, but the eyes are fully on Meta at the minute. Marcus Brownlee has a great video that looks into this. As I said, these glasses aren't really available. They're only available to selected users and tech influencers, and they're trying to get themselves a foundation to build upon. And so you've got the VR guys working with the Meta Quest on one end, and then you've got the smart glasses like Ray-Bans working at the other. And you're kind of trying to meet in the middle, and that is exactly what Meta are doing with these glasses. Now, Meta have been known to be working in this space for a little while now, but the incredible performance of these glasses was not expected, and especially not this year. Their integration with AI is definitely upcoming, but you can already start to see the incredible foundations that have been laid out. You know, I can basically flick through Instagram or take a phone call with these glasses and not have to move my hands in front of me like this. They have a electromagnetic wristband that actually detects your hand sensors and gestures, so you can have your hand in your pocket and just flick through Instagram just as that. It's absolutely incredible. I would 100% recommend checking out Marcus Brownlee's video on this because he goes into those glasses and he's one of the few people that did have access to test them out. Topic number 5 is notable challenges creators faced in 2024. So coming back to being a bit more relevant to current state of play. And number 3 was keeping up with speed. Our industry is already incredibly fast paced. Things become outdated the minute you learn them. But with the progression of AI and other tools and technologies, it's become increasingly hard to keep on top of everything. It seems like every 5 minutes there's a new ChatGPT model being released, or a new Midjourney model being released, or a brand new product coming and trying to compete with these guys. And it can feel a little bit overwhelming at times, and especially for me, I'm nowhere near being able to keep on top of absolutely everything. I do follow influencers, I follow pages on LinkedIn, I've got some really good blogs that I like to subscribe to, but generally speaking, there is a lot that I do miss, and as with everybody else. But that's partially why I wanted to create Design Ahead. Shameless little plug in the middle of an actual video, I know. But the purpose of Design Ahead is to help everybody stay on top of the creative industry. Trends like AI, emerging technologies like VR, AR, practices like sustainable design. I want to learn more about them. I want to educate you guys, and I want to start creating a conversation that allows us to collaborate. And, you know, you guys can suggest things that I might have missed or might not be aware of, and then I can learn about them, share them with everybody else, and provide a platform. So that is one thing that everybody's kind of struggled with, including myself, is keeping up with the speed and rate of change in the creative industry of 2024. And it's only going to get harder. Number 2 is inclusive design. Now, this was in my other ranking video as well, but the reason I put this in the most notable design challenges is it is very difficult sometimes to meet accessibility needs while also still pioneering best practice, user experience, graphic design, video production, whatever it might be. With the addition of WCAG 2.2 at the back end of last year, it has felt like everybody's playing catch up to make sure that products and design systems, guidelines are all meeting those expectations while not hindering that development process. And it's just put a lot more pressure on people to be making accessible products, and rightfully so. You know, it is very important to be doing so, but there is an added pressure on top of the pressure of timeframes, budgets, making sure that users are satisfied at the end, that we now have a lot on accessibility, a lot of audits, a lot of checks and balances, and making sure that the product is fully accessible at every step of the way. And one of the things I did run into recently was problems with colour. So I was using the brand guidelines to improve our design system and then build the product. And one of the issues I found was that the colour guidelines hadn't been brought up to standard, and actually one of the colours was not AA accessible when you use a certain colour of text. And it fell into the problem here within my designs, because I was then building the product or designing what the product was meant to look like, and ultimately that icon would fail accessibility checks because it wasn't meeting 4.5 AA accessibility standard. And that's kind of the lag. I mean, generally speaking, was that a WCAG 2.2 problem? Probably not. It was just inherently there in the design guidelines. But there are things that WCAG is introducing that brand guidelines then need to adapt and follow. And if you're building systems while those brand guidelines are still adapting, then your design systems aren't going to be accessible and meeting 2.2. And that brings us on to number 1, which is AI ethics and an over-reliance on AI. Jake, can you go one video without mentioning AI? Absolutely not. I think it's one of the most important topics in the world right now. But there is a really important discussion to be had about these ethics, and I think by far it has been the most challenging thing to balance in 2024. I can attack this from pretty much every angle. You've got the ethics around where the data is actually going, who's storing it, what are they using it for, the ethics around OpenAI or Google. These are profitable companies. They're not non-profits. They're not open source, as again, that's been a big discussion. But where is that data going? If I'm a company that's going to be using your products to help our team upskill or provide some trading material or even intellectual property to help you develop it, how do I know that that company that is going to be providing the AI has my best interest and won't misuse that information I give it? And it's just a case of trust and understanding who these companies are. We've had to trust companies in the past if we're using developer software. We need to know who's supplying that software. Are they trustworthy? Miro had a big problem in the past few years, as actually Miro was developed by a Russian businessman. So again, you're tying into the Russian war. There's a big concern about, is it trustworthy to be having government projects running through Miro and using Miro as a tool? It has been evaluated and it has been discussed, and most government projects are happy to use Miro. I say most, maybe it's quite a few. And government departments have taken action as they've seen fit. Some have allowed it, some have not allowed it, of course, for very valid reasons on both sides. Now, Miro hasn't been Russia known for a long, long time. It was bought by a San Francisco company and is based there now, but there is still some worry that, there are traces of having a Russian built product and its impact on Western government. It's a very contentious topic, and rightfully so. Image generation tools as well, they are trained on the web. They are trained on essentially copyrighted images if we go down to it. And there are a lot of problems with that. A lot of people don't feel comfortable using image generation tools because of this. They also don't know what might be happening with the information that's been trained on. Are they just going to be taking that and stealing it, reproducing things? So there are so many things. I could spend a full podcast talking about AI ethics, and I actually might. But another issue that we have been facing with AI is education. There are complaints from teachers and lecturers that people are literally taking an assignment, popping the question into GPT, copy and pasting the answer and submitting it. And yeah, it is a genius way of doing it, but you're not learning anything. And there are some AI detectors. I do have my own opinions on those. I genuinely don't think they work, but they are able to detect the nuances in the way in which ChatGPT, for example, writes. And this is causing a lot of problems because essentially there's no way to prove if ChatGPT wrote your assignment or not from a teacher's perspective. It's up to the student. If the student says, I wrote the entire thing, then it's almost like their word against theirs, but it's a bit of a tricky one. Another problem with this is that there's an over-reliance on GPT to be factual. I was even preparing for this podcast and looking for things that had been developed over the past year so I could investigate, like, of course, the Meta glasses. And it was giving me some things that were actually developed way back in 2022. And I was like challenging it to say, this product was not developed this year. And I did ask for something that was from this year. And it would just go, yep, you're right, my bad. It was in 2022. So it's very clear that these GPTs, these large language models aren't 100% accurate and shouldn't be treated as so. And it is quite inherent if you are working within the industry to know that, but especially in education, some people will take this for gospel, especially younger audiences. And our final topic for the year, the tools that defined 2024. What were the most impactful creative tools within the industry over the past year? We're going to start off with number 3, which for me is Miro. So there's a big debate. Is it Miro? Is it Miro? Well, Miro released a video of them saying Miro. So case closed. But for me, it solidified itself as the number 1 collaboration tool. There are quite a lot of competitors out there now, especially in 2024. You've got FigJam, you've got Mural, which has been around for a similar amount of time as Miro. You've got Microsoft Whiteboard, just to name a few. And it's becoming increasingly likely that Miro is going to dominate that market, at least in my perspective, and I'll tell you why. So Miro has been around for a long, long time. It's, for the past 5 or 6 years, it's been my go-to whiteboarding tool. And I feel like every time they release an update, it is meaningful. They don't overcomplicate things, and it makes the product overall better. AI Assist looks to be fantastic. I think it's given a brilliant platform for Miro to build upon. There's a lot of potential that can go into this, and a lot of automation of creating templates and asking you for customization options and just saving the busy work that you end up doing at the start of a project every time. Especially when you're doing a lot of user research, you might have a lot of notes in there, post-it notes, tables, information that needs to be condensed, and that's why Miro Assist is really good at doing that. It gets everything down, boiled into something that you can take away and not spend 3 hours trying to synthesize. There's also a real budding community as well, creating templates and shareable assets that will only grow and only become more complex when Miro AI develops more and people can create some really intuitive designs and things that people can really take on and excel within the project workspace. As I said, there are some fantastic competitors out there really pushing to the limits of what these whiteboard tools can do, like Mural, FigJam, and Whiteboard. But for me, Miro right now takes the cake. Number 2 on the list is Midjourney version 6. This was released over the past couple of months, and version 6 has had some incredible improvements to Midjourney. When you look back at Midjourney in 2022, 2023, it's absolutely astounding at the progress they've managed to make up to the point it's at now in version 6. It's ultra realistic, it's very capable of understanding your prompts, it can actually put in text that's legible, makes sense, and actually follows a font, which is just incredible. I think that was one of the biggest issues Midjourney had for a long, long time, and being able to get over that and produce text that is readable, understandable, stylistically correct is a huge jump in the right direction. Some of the realistic assets you can create, like mock-ups, is just out of this world, honestly. I've never seen anything like it, and the progress that they've made is shown 100%, 100 times over with version 6. I'd really recommend you guys to check out just some videos, if not using it for yourself. And number 1, what was the tool that defined 2024? For me, it was Figma. It could only be Figma, and I'll tell you why. Cast your minds back to the end of last year in December 2023 when the Figma-Adobe merger collapsed. $20 billion, and it was ruled that anti-monopoly laws would take place and make sure that this Figma-Adobe merger did not happen. And I'm pretty sure that happened just before Christmas, so I'm sure that the Figma guys took a Christmas break and then came back in 2024 knowing that it was essentially them against the world. There was nobody that was going to be buying them, and Figma was going to remain as a sole company. So for them, there was probably a lot of clarity in that. I'd imagine, there's no more merging with Adobe. Do we now need to start worrying about how Figma integrates with other products or where it sits within the Adobe suite? They just knew we've got Figma and we can do what we need to do with it. And they released Figma Slides. Now, 2 perspectives on Figma Slides. The first is that Figma was being used as a slide deck tool by a few creatives already in the past couple of years. The prototyping features within it were really intuitive. The transitions were great, that you could design something that was impactful and meaningful in Figma and then replicate a slideshow ability within it. The problem was it wasn't a dedicated slide deck software, and the competition being mainly Microsoft PowerPoint was so much better at doing that, providing like speaker notes and other transitions that you could use. And the other side of it being that PowerPoint, which has really had a stranglehold on the slide deck community, I don't know what you call that. I call it slide deck. Try not to say PowerPoint to keep it agnostic, but drop a comment and tell me what you guys call them. But yeah, PowerPoint had been the dominant tool for the past 25 years, really. One of the big issues being for me that designing in PowerPoint isn't intuitive and it isn't easy, especially if you're trying to do something cool or put in vector graphics and make your own. It's kind of there for templating, and I think it's great for that, but if you want to create something custom, you're quite limited. So now we have this interesting battleground in the middle where Figma release Figma slides. You get all of the advantages of Figma. You get the ability to drop prototypes in, you can use FigJam artifacts and copy them across, all within a slide deck tool. And now I wonder where this is going to go, really. I mean, it was only introduced this year. I've still yet to use it properly. I do kind of rely on PowerPoint, but that is because my company templates are created for PowerPoint. But as Figma is starting to expand into more and more areas, you know, we've got FigJam as the whiteboarding tool, Figma, of course, for wireframing and prototyping, and potentially even graphic design with its vector base. And now we have a slide deck solution. So I'm interested to see where Figma goes on that. We've also got AI integration, not only with the plugins, but within Figma itself. It's been really great at automating some of those repetitive tasks, being able to help with content generation. So I can create a component, duplicate it, and then it will automatically replace the text, which is fantastic. And I'm excited to see what more can be done with it. I'm always on the lookout for new Figma AI tutorials to really improve my workflow and show me new ways of working as well. We've also got dev mode upgrades, which has been fantastic for developers to come in, understand prototypes and start to build them. And for me, I expect massive things, as pretty much everybody does, from Figma in 2025. But that's my review of 2024. As I said, I'm going to have a two-parter looking ahead into 2025 and some of the most interesting, exciting areas that might be being developed, some cool new products that we can expect, some areas that might be a little bit unexpected or bubbling under the surface that might make a pop in 2025. But for now, please do subscribe to the channel if you're on YouTube, or drop a follow wherever you get this podcast. Leave a like and comment to let me know if I've missed anything, or if you disagree or even agree with my rankings and ratings. Let me know in the comments, and for now, I'll see you guys in the next one.